evening. Good evening. Welcome to you all on this evening. It is June. It is a new month, and we are so grateful for a new month. I love the spring, and it's almost summer. So we're moving forward, and we want to welcome you to Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC, Locked In. It's still 2024, so we are still locked in this year, and we are very, very happy to be here on this evening. We are glad that you are joining us on this evening for our monthly podcast, hashtag from a Christian, hashtag from a therapist with Dr. Natatu. We have an amazing show planned for this evening. So we are glad that you are tuned in. My name is Dr. Natatu North, and I am the owner and one of the therapists of Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC, which is located in Cincinnati, Ohio. So it is Sunday. It is June 2nd, 2024. It's about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are live. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube, and I am in the process of posting the YouTube link for the broadcast on Instagram. So we want you to take just a few moments as you're coming on. If this is your first time tuning in with us, we want to welcome you. And we thank you for tuning in this evening. But we do ask you just to do a few things this evening. You know, when you stumble upon something great, or you know you're watching something that's going to be beneficial for someone else, we ask you to like what you're watching. Please follow us on your preferred social media platform. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even if you don't typically watch us on YouTube, it's okay. But we do ask for you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also share this broadcast. Let people know what you're watching this evening. This is not just one of those things where we're just sharing or we're just on here just, doing stuff. We are absolutely going to be making this definitely something that's going to be useful for everyone. So let's also interact and engage in the comments section. So as you're tuning in, as you're coming on, if you take just a few moments, let us know in the comment section that you are here. Say good evening to us. Good evening, Mr. North. Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in, sir. Kind sir. We appreciate you this evening. But please, while you're coming on, let us know that you're here in the comment section. Let's be a family this evening as we're still sharing. And I'm almost done here as I'm sharing on my platforms as well, because I'm not going to ask you to do something that I would not be doing. So please come on in, say good evening to us, say what's up. We're here this evening. And like I said, we have a wonderful time planned this evening. Just before we go too much further, just a little background. We do this once a month. And we definitely like to utilize this platform to talk about different topics that are helpful for us as people, all ages, going through different things. And we want to make sure that this platform is used for that positive, in that positive way. So as you're coming on again, please let us know that you are here in the comment section. We're liking, we're following, we're subscribing, and we're sharing on this evening. So we thank you so much for taking some time to do that. So as we're talking about mental health, one of the first things I always do anytime we're together is I want to share this number with you. This is the number for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. When we are in crises, whether it's our personal crisis or someone else's crisis, oftentimes we don't know what to do. It can be extremely hard to know what to do in a moment of crisis. A lot of times we are almost in a state of panic or a little bit confused. We're not exactly sure what we should do. This number is a useful resource to have in the case of a mental health emergency. And that number is 988. Again, it's 988. The number is 24/7. You can call this number. You can text this number. There are people readily available to help, to assist, to provide that intervention, if you will, that could be needed in the time of a crisis. So we want to put that information out there. Like I said, we always share it, but definitely want to put that out there again this evening before we get started. So I'd like to just take a moment to go through this. If this is your first time tuning in with us, again, we appreciate you. And we're so glad that you have joined us this evening. What is Purpose Journey Counseling, LLC? Well, it is a private practice located in Cincinnati, Ohio, where we provide mental health services to children, adolescents, and adults. We provide family counseling, individual counseling, couples counseling, to ages like 5 all the way up until there's really no cutoff age. So we do provide services. I'm, like I said, the owner, one of the therapists. We do have other therapists that work with us as well. God has really, truly been blessing us. So we are thankful for that. But we do provide services. So that's what we are. And one of the things that we always want to put out there is it is okay to have Jesus and a therapist too. It is definitely okay to do that. And it's definitely encouraged when needed. So again, this is our monthly podcast, hashtag from a Christian, hashtag from a therapist with Dr. Natatu. This is episode 21. And tonight we're going to be talking about body shaming. Do I like what I see when I look in the mirror? This topic is huge. It's very, very important. And I am really, really blessed to have the opportunity to have a discussion about this on this evening. So every month, as we've been locked in for 2024, we have had different themes every month. And we just came off of Mental Health Awareness Month in the month of May. We're mental health awareness, using that every single month. But in the month of May, that was our big focus. And we just came off of that for May. But our theme for June is going to be image. So we're going to be talking about it from different vantage points for the entire month. But our podcast today is going to be talking about body shaming. So if you're watching this, especially, it's not just for our ladies. It is for our gentlemen as well, all ages, children, adolescents, and adults. There's no age limit to this, but honestly, it's really, really critical for our babies too, because they really need to hear this and have these types of conversations. So without further ado, we do have a very, very special guest this evening. She's a returning guest. She's really not even like guest because it's my sister. Duh. So she's really not even a guest. But we are grateful that she is here this evening. So we're going to welcome our special returning guest, Miss Kia Cannon, and I'm going to bring her on this evening. Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being back again.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. This is home. This is definitely home. So we always, anytime we have, guests on our podcast, we still like to do an icebreaker first, just to kind of get, the jitters off and just, because we're really just having a conversation. So since we're talking about bodies and stuff like that, the icebreaker question this evening is just, in terms of, we think of seasons, we think of different type of clothing that we wear. What season's clothing do you prefer? Maybe not the season, but the clothing.
Oh, I'm a fall weather clothing. I'm a jeans and boots kind of girl, like all day long. Jeans, boots, and sweaters, which is interesting. I'm a summer baby, but I love like when the weather starts to chill a little bit and I can break my boots back out. I live for a good pair of knee-high boots or over-the-knee boots. Can't really wear those in June and July. So yeah, I'll say fall.
But you probably shouldn't, Lisa. I mean, you could. You'd be hot. And that's so funny because I'm a winter baby, so we're like the opposite. But I don't know. I like fall clothes, but I really prefer like open-toe shoes. I love sandals. I love shorts and tank tops. I don't like it to be too hot, but I think I prefer like spring-ish. Yeah. Because it's like, you're not, well, you might be sweating, but not as much, maybe. But I think, I prefer more like the spring clothing and summer stuff. Yeah. We'll say that. You like fall.
Okay, so we're complete opposites.
Yeah. But that makes it, born different seasons and prefer. Actually, cool. Probably sister. So, boom. There's the icebreaker. I told you it wasn't going to be anything too bad. Oh goodness! You should just be a superhero. That way you can.
Only if they cool from the inside. Because if I have to go somewhere hot in boots, it's not happening. Like somebody else might have to save you that day. I can't do it.
I'm just gonna say if this how he gonna be tonight, I'm about to.
It's already begun.
It's already good. And see, he ain't even got nobody to see rev him up. So we already know he's the problem. See, no problem. There we go. So, well, that was our icebreaker. So now we're going to get into our discussion. Before we ask the first question, this is a Christian-based podcast. So I do want to share a scripture that goes along with what we're talking about this evening. And the scripture is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 through 20. And I'm reading it out of the NIV. And it says, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. So we're not going to preach that or anything like that, but we definitely want to focus on this text as we're talking, but just saying this because our bodies don't even belong to us. They don't. But when we talk about body shaming, then we would already say that's not even of God. Can't be of God because we're not our own and we were bought with a price. So shaming what we were bought, shaming what was already bought with the price isn't of God. So we're not going to preach it, but just wanted to start there for this evening. So this evening, I don't think I said this yet. So we're going to be going through a series of questions, dialogue. We're going to be having conversations. So as you all are watching this evening, you can make comments, you can ask questions in whatever platform you're using in the comment section. All we ask is that they're respectful comments. But if you have questions, if you want to add to the conversation, that's totally fine as long as it's respectful. And I'll put stuff up on the screen as we're talking and moving through these questions. So you ready?
Let's go.
All righty. So first question, who taught you or where did you learn about physical presentation? So in that, we're talking about how we're supposed to look, what kind of body type we're supposed to have. This is a loaded question. Hair, our teeth supposed to look like, how tall you're supposed to be, how do we dress, all of that. So you could take that from whatever perspective you want to.
I'll just say this. Anybody who knows me and my family already knows the answer to that question. My mother, like without even really saying anything, with the way that she presented herself and always when we were younger presented us, was always just so, was always exactly how she envisioned, and it was always put together. It was always clean, it was always neat, it was always all of those things. So if you've ever met my mother, what she is and has always been is what she instilled in us from pretty much day one. What I will say though, I think my sister has picked up and held on to a lot more of what my mom has instilled than I do, because I kind of, you can call it rebelled, but I kind of shifted away from dressing to the nines or being 100% presentable all the time. And I kind of went to, do I feel comfortable? And do I look like I'm at least semi put together for the most part? But to answer the question, top to bottom, my mom was the example and the one who really put that in me.
Okay. I think for me, it's actually the same. And I don't even know if it was that she did it intentionally per se, some stuff, maybe certain things. But I think it was certain things that I actually started to pick up from her as I got older that I didn't even realize. Like sometimes, I don't know if I'm not going to say it's buying new clothes. I'm not going to say that because I don't think I got that from her. That's just my problem. But like, oh, well, this is for this. So I gotta wear a certain type of clothing item for this, or I have to wear a certain type of clothing item for that, because she's like real, I don't want to say bougie, but she is. Love you, mom. Bougie. I guess I get that from her. But it's like the whole dress up thing, that was more like my mom. My mom always pretty much has on heels because we're just vertically challenged. So that's why she says she likes to wear heels. I'm not to that point. I feel like I always have to wear heels, but even like she wears makeup. Now I didn't pick up those little things, like some of that stuff. And she's going to the grocery store, she's still gonna have on makeup. I don't necessarily do that, but I think I still pick up a lot from her. It might just be scaled back just a little bit, just because our personalities differ. But even I guess more specific things like, I mean, she never really talked about body type per se, or you have to look a certain way, but how you present yourself in public was always something that was important. Absolutely.
Absolutely. To this day, my mom, I love her. Mom, if you're watching, I love you. She will not leave the house unless something is done. To the point where, again, Mom, I love you. It's frustrating because sometimes we're running up against time and it's like, hey, can we do this in the car? I'm just like, if it doesn't get done by the time we got to go, it's not getting done. But I understand that putting your best face forward is extremely important to her. We just have different definitions of what that means.
Yes. That's a good point. Because it's like, it's not, we don't think it's bad. Like, we're not judging them. It's not that. It's just that it's different. And it almost makes me wonder if that's like generational. Because
So.
like, I've seen like a lot of times like people that are like our mother's ages, like they tend to do that. Like if you're just stepping out just to go make a run, like you're not going to leave without your face. And I'm like, I could care less. But case in point, Lamar would even say this: when I was in labor at home having Sanaa, I put earrings on to go to the hospital. So I didn't put no makeup on, but I did put on some earrings to go to the hospital to have a baby. So a little bit of that.
I get it. I made it a point to make sure that at least my hair was braided before I went into the hospital with both my babies. Like this can get unruly. Nobody needs to see that in the midst of everything else going on. So I at least made sure that was done. But yeah, I have no qualms walking out in a t-shirt and yoga pants. My mom, But here's the flip side of that, though. There's still some of that in me because there's a certain line that I won't cross. Like there are certain things that I wouldn't do. Like there are certain ways that I won't walk out of the house, and not judging anybody else. This is just me. I always told myself I would not ever take my children to school with my hair still tied. Time and patience determined that was a lie because as they got older, it definitely happened. But it was something that was always in the back of my mind. Like, this is my kid's school. They're going to see me. Kids can be cruel. You never want to be that parent that's like, oh my gosh, her mom looks like that. But it just kind of was what it was. But that's always something that stuck. Like, before I leave the house, if nothing else, my hair will be presentable. Are there times I've stepped out in my scarf? Absolutely. But for the most part, I try not to. Again, that's just me. That's just how I feel. I'm not judging, not passing judgment on anyone else. But that's just me.
No, I feel that too. Same here. I said the same thing about not leaving the house with my hair tied, but sometimes when I'm dropping off the older one, I just, hey, we got to get out the door. And that's what you're getting. I'm in the car though, so less people probably see me. Now, if I had to go in the building, left the Chromebook at home, I will look presentable to go into the school to represent you in a way that you won't be embarrassed. But yeah, so to an extent, yeah. But yeah, yoga pants, shirts, I don't care.
Like, even that is less about me than it is about them. Like, if it was just for me, I don't know that I would care, but I don't want to present myself like that as a representative of them because of what somebody else might say to them. For me, oh well, you get what you see.
Yeah, right. I'm fine with it. Yoga pants are some of the most comfortable pants. T-shirts are great. Have a bunch of t-shirts. I don't know what the problem with a t-shirt is, so I don't have a problem with that kind of stuff. But
they're made to be worn. Why? What's the problem?
Exactly. So it's our moms. Well, hey moms, you guys have definitely taught us some things, and we carry apparently some of the same things, maybe not all of the same things. We love you anyway, but yeah, I think a lot of it is generational. I think we're just kind of more like, well, I don't need to wear, and I don't even wear makeup hardly ever anyway. So I don't wear it most of the time. So it's like, I'm definitely not gonna put on makeup to go to the grocery store. I don't even barely wear it, but that's just a personal preference. Yeah, not knocking anybody who does. It's more or less really just more of a personal preference. So it's not something that I do. I feel like he made a face. I think he was talking about when I said I put on earrings. He It was funny. Why are you putting on earrings? You in labor. I'm going out.
Because people are looking at me like there's gonna be in my face.
Like, regardless. So, okay. So we've been taught some things, and I'll say so far, it doesn't seem like it's been anything, that's really like challenged us in the ways of like, thinking about different ideologies and stuff like that. But now we really want to get into talking about body shaming. And so the next question is, how would you define body shaming?
Telling me what my body should or should not be when you have no idea what it was made to do or what it goes through on a day-to-day. As simple as that. Like you don't know, you don't live here.
Right.
You don't live in this body. So for you to tell me what it should and should not be without understanding how it works, what it is, what it's supposed to do. No. That to me is shaming. You're trying to make me feel as though I'm inadequate. Maybe not intentionally, but your body shaming comments just have that effect. And to me, that's where it stems from. You're trying to tell me what I should be without knowing exactly what it should be. You have no clue.
That's true, which is very common. We'll get there, but very, very common, because a lot of people have a lot to say about what our bodies should do and how we should utilize our bodies, but didn't create us and don't have a clue. Don't live, like I said, they don't live here. I like how you said that. They don't live here.
It's like walking in somebody's house and telling them how to decorate. You don't live here. This is not for you.
Right.
As long as it does what I need it to do and I'm okay with it, that's all that should matter. Like, why do you say in what my body should be? It's mine. It was given to me. It wasn't given to you. So why should you be able to tell me what it should do or what it should be?
That's good. I think for me, like I was really, I don't say struggling, but kind of thinking about this. So like we use the term, but it's like, what does it really mean? And I think it could mean different things for different people. But for me, it would just be like speaking against, and this could be something from someone else, or it could be from us personally, but it's speaking anything negative over us, over our bodies, whether it's someone else, like you said, telling us what we should do, how we should look, how we should, basically how we should look. Because it's not even so much about carrying yourself. It's like, well, she carries herself well, but she probably needs to lose 50 pounds. That's body shaming. Nobody asked you how much she needs to weigh. You worry about your own weight. Stop worrying about hers.
And please understand that it's not a compliment.
It's not a compliment. Or you carry that weight so well. What does that even mean?
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in my life. Like, I'm sorry, what?
Don't say that. Don't. What does that mean? What's up, bro?
Hey, bro.
Don't say that. You carry that. Oh, you just had that baby weight. You just had that baby. You can't even tell you. Speaking again in any way, if you are speaking negatively about your body or someone else's body, speaking against, criticizing, critiquing, body shaming.
Hey, sister.
Oh, hold on, did I miss something? Oh. Hey. What do you say? What's up, y'all? We are blessed. Thank you. But yes, that's body shaming. And we're going to talk. I'm trying not to get too far ahead because I just got triggered. I don't even know how, but I just got triggered.
Let's be clear. It doesn't have to come from an outside source. Like you said, I'm guilty of body shaming myself more than I ever should, but it still came from the same place. I don't know what my creator decided this body is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
So why am I criticizing it? Now, could I do better? Could I improve? Absolutely. But why am I speaking against what he created, what he made for his purpose? I don't know what that is. I don't know exactly what that looks like. So who am I to say I don't look exactly like I was made to look?
That part. Because that's like saying, because I mean, I've dealt with it personally. Oh, I'm too short. So that's saying that God made a mistake when he made me and he should have made me taller. Like, or well, this shouldn't look, my shoulders are too broad. So God made a mistake when he made my shoulders broad. I mean, it's like you have to really, you ask these things. So it's really like if you're shaming your own body, but you're shaming your creator because we didn't create ourselves. So are we saying that God made mistakes when he made us? And we don't like our nose, we don't like our teeth, we don't like this, and our hair need to be this. And it goes from like, you can literally go from head to toe and we find complaints about everything.
And
from
didn't make it
to the feet. What you say?
Didn't make a drop of it, not 1 inch. Didn't
Not
create
one.
nothing.
Not one. So body shaming is deep. And so it goes deeper, and we want to make it clear. It goes deeper than just weight. We're not just talking about weight. We're talking about the entire body, the human body, when we're talking about body shaming. You look like you want to say something.
No, we have a question. We got a question in the chat.
So is wearing a girdle body shaming? Thank you, sis, for asking the question. I had some notes about that. You want to take that one first, or you want me to take it?
I'll go back to what I said about 30 seconds ago. Can I improve? Absolutely. Can I feel more comfortable? Absolutely. But that's not me speaking negatively against it. It's just saying I can change this for a more positive feeling, how, feel better in your own eyes, to look better. I think it depends on the reason. It depends on why you're doing it. If you're doing it simply because somebody says you should, that to me is shaming yourself, because you're going off of, again, a non-creator's opinion of what you should look like, what you should be. If you're choosing to do it because you want to feel more comfortable, I'm for it. Like, I don't think that's shaming. I just think that's personal improvement.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to say the same thing. Like, if you choose to wear it because you feel comfortable, it makes you feel more comfortable in your clothing, then you wear it. But if you're wearing it because somebody told you had to wear, or when we start saying she need to have on a girdle, Spanx, what is it? I want your outfit to look good, so can you wear Spanx? Is that shaming? As a consultant, again, I still think it depends on preference, because I get it, because this is what we're talking about. Because a lot of times we get into this, well, it has to have a smoother appearance. You have to, because you go back in the day, they used to be tucked in, tightened up, so tight that I don't even understand how they breathed with the stuff that women were wearing. But where did that come from? Who said that because if a woman has a stomach, that it has to be tucked in? Who said that? Where did that come from? Where did it come from? And this is what we're talking about, because I have a big pet peeve about this. As a woman who has a stomach, because I've had kids, is it really right to tell me that I have to tuck that in? If I have a fupa, or I got whatever going on, do I really have to tuck that in? Do I have to cover it up? Do I have to suck it in? Do I have to do that? Why do I have to do that? Does it bother me, or does it bother you? That's the question. If it bothers me, then okay, I'm going to take care of that, do what I need to do. But if it bothers you, that's your problem. Sorry, not sorry. That's your problem. That, to me, that's the difference. Yes, it is generational. It is, because Mom, I love you again. If you're watching, I'm not speaking negative, but my mom is very conscientious about those types of things, and that's what it was taught. We were taught this is what you kind of do. It was not really pressed upon us very, very deeply. I'm not going to say that, but it is something. It's like, you need to put something under that, or you need to do this. But where did that come from, and why? And so I would say for you, I was still question that, though, because even if it is you do what you're comfortable with. But if you're uncomfortable with it, then you got to deal with that too. Because it's multifaceted. And that's the whole body shaming thing. That's why sometimes we do it for other people, but sometimes we really aren't comfortable with ourselves. So that's the other reason why we do it.
Can I give an example on that?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who knows me knows I hate dresses. I do not like wearing dresses. So much so that if I ever wore one to work, everybody's looking like, well, who are you dressed up for? Every so often, maybe I just decided I wanted to wear a dress. I like dresses sometimes. When I'm in the mood for them, I like dresses. 99 times out of 100, no. But every so often, I'll do it. And it's not because I'm trying to get a look from anybody else. I just wanted to look a certain way today. So if I'm doing that for me, that's one thing. If I was walking, if I was walking into work dressed up to catch the eye of somebody else, then I would question that. I wouldn't feel right about me. I did it for myself. So much so that yes, I'm that person that will walk past the mirror and say, "Oh, you cute." Mm-hmm. Sometimes I just want to be cute.
Right.
Sometimes I want to be comfortable, but sometimes I want to be cute.
Right. And you have the right to do that when you feel like it. But should somebody have to say, well, she shouldn't wear that one because that shows this role or that role or this? I don't know. Like, I get it, but maybe I don't. Maybe I really have issues with it, and I get it. But that's really the next question. Kind of where did it come from? Like, even just like the question about the girdles and the Spanx, like I'm not even going to equate that to say that has to be body shaming. I won't say it has to be because I think, like we both said, it depends. It depends. But where did it come from? Like, why do we do it?
When you even tell somebody what they should be or what they shouldn't be, it's being compared to something. Why are you comparing yourself or anybody else to anything else unique? When we start to compare, then we start to find deficiencies in ourselves. We start to find deficiencies in others. We start to find deficiencies in every little thing that we can because we're looking at something that we're not and probably aren't supposed to be anyway. Again, it goes back to if my creator made me this way, why am I comparing myself to what something else is? Why are you comparing me to another creation?
Right.
I was created to be this. I was created to be Kia. I can't be Ntatu. I can't be Lamar. I can't be Bridget. I was made to be Kia. So why would I compare myself to something else? So if you're shaming me, you're already a step behind. Are you comparing? Sorry, that was mean. But you're already comparing me either to yourself, some other ideal, which probably isn't for me anyway, but you don't know either way it goes. But just comparison. Why are we comparing anyway?
Mm-hmm. It definitely, I think comparison is a huge part of it. And I guess I liken that to, and I was thinking about different music where they had the measurements in it. And I think one of the songs was Nelly's songs. I think it was one of his first songs. I love the song, but it was like measurements is 35, 24, 36, something like that. And then I heard another song and the measurements was totally different. And I was like, wait a minute. So is it supposed to be this? So I'm sitting up there as a young woman, because I was young when I wasn't even grown when that song came out. And I'm sitting there measuring myself. Like, I don't measure up to what he's talking. He's rapping about this stuff. And that's like my measurements. Is there something wrong with me? Like, am I supposed to look like that? Is it supposed to measure that way? Again, comparing it to what you hear, what you see, what's what's posted. Or, I mean, back then, even before social media, it wasn't social media, but it was like BET or whatever you watch, whatever it is that you look at, like the stuff that you see. A lot of times we start to compare ourselves and we start to think like, oh, well, if skinny is in, we're supposed to be skinny. If thick is in, we're supposed to be thick. If this, like, what are you supposed to look like?
That word is just a mess. Supposed to. Supposed to?
Supposed to.
You don't even know what you're. I can't say that enough. 99 times out of 100, we don't know what we're supposed to be. So how can you tell me what I'm supposed to be. Whether it's media, whether it's somebody I know, whatever it is. You didn't build this. So you don't know what the purpose was when it was built. So how can you tell me what it's supposed to be?
Exactly. And I will say that to you, how based off what you experienced growing up. It's true. And that's the issue. And I'm not even going to say like plain Jane versus dressing up, or I'm not going to say, I mean, my thing is still whatever your preference is, whatever you're comfortable in. But that's a good point too, because do we judge people? Well, you need to wear something more this, or why are you dressing plain Jane? Or why do we do that too? Well, your body, you should show off your curves a little bit more. So you should do this. Why are you dressed like that? I mean, because really it goes both ways. Because like we would talk about the sister that wore the short Daisy Dukes, as we used to call them back in the day. And then we talk about sister girl over here who wearing, like a frock. I don't know if that's what you would call it, or a muumuu or whatever. Like we talk.
Don't sleep on muumuus though.
I mean, I think they're comfortable. But again, but that's the point. Where did it come? Like I know it's comparison. I agree with you. I think it's comparison. And the comparison is a thief of joy anyway. So comparison will take our joy all the time because, like you said, you can't be me, I can't be you, but we're not supposed to try to be each other. Like we sisters, we're not the same person. We may have a lot in common, but we're not the same person. So we're not supposed to be the same. We're not supposed to think the same. We're not supposed to look the same. And just because I don't look like this or you don't look like that does not mean there's something wrong with us.
Right.
But it's like people aren't happy with themselves, period. That's part of the problem too, I think. Because, we're not happy with us. They're not happy with us. You ain't happy with them. Everybody got something to say. Ain't even your business.
Again, that goes back to why are you comparing? Are you trying to pull me down to the level of not loving you that you're at? Like, he's talking about moments.
All right, bro. Right. All right, bro.
Like the title or the subtitle to this podcast is do I like what I see in the mirror? Well, do you? And if you do, why does it matter what I see?
Let that sink in for a second. That was good.
I mean, I'm team, if you don't like it, it's not for you. You don't have to look at it. I'm very much team avert your eyes. If you don't like it, look over there.
If you think that the dress is too tight and on my stomach, I should have wore something else. Then look at something else. Like, does my stomach offend you?
Get off the hard.
Like it's just, I don't know, it's mind-boggling because because that's a good question about liking what you see when you look in the mirror, because a lot of times though we don't. So we have our own insecurities. So when other people point out, like I can say, I've been working on it, but I'm still insecure about my stomach. So if anybody points out anything about my stomach other than saying, hey, Ntatu has gotten smaller, I'm going to struggle for a second because I'm insecure about my stomach. So, and that's just where I am. And I mean, that's something I have to still work on. I'm getting better, but that's an area of insecurity for me. So if you point it out, I'm going to be mad. I don't care who you are, I'm going to be mad. Well, your stomach, it look a little... Thank you, sis. See, mine do too. It offends me. I'm just saying. It does.
Same. Mm-hmm. Same. I think I just stopped caring after a while. And there's that. Again, it's one of those things. If you don't like it, it's not for you. Just because you don't like the package doesn't mean somebody else won't. Mm-hmm. But the most important person who has to is the person who lives in it.
That part. Because I can even speak from the side of my husband is very affirming, very loving, all of that. When I was at my heaviest weight, and I wasn't at my heaviest weight when I was pregnant, I was at my heaviest weight way after I had my last kid. When I was at my heaviest weight, he always told me I was beautiful, never had a problem with the weight, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I appreciated that. However, I was uncomfortable. So even though he was nice about it, it still bothered me because I had to deal with it. There was things that I had to like. Did I like what I saw when I looked in the mirror? Some of it, but not all of it. Not once I got down to that midsection, I was like, nope. You right, sis. Can't nobody tell you nothing. Right. You already know. Yes, Lamar is the best. He is. You did good, sis. Thank you. It's been it's a whole thing on my belt. You know, bed. No, don't go to bed. Finish washing first, but then go to bed. I'm tripping. But yeah, there's just layers because sometimes I think it's like we could feel real good about ourselves and somebody else say something and it could adversely affect us, or we could not care, or we might feel bad about ourselves, and even if somebody says something nice, it still don't necessarily hit right because we don't know how how to take that sometimes. So silly. Even the compliments, it's like it's hard to take it sometimes because it's really more about how we feel about ourselves. And whether, no matter how much I weigh, that shouldn't bother you. Now, you should want me to be healthy. We're going to talk about that. But does weight equal health? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We're going to talk about that. I'm not going to.
On that note, looking at the subtitle again, do I like what I see? Not always. I don't always like what I see, but I love who I see. I love the person that's in that body. Are there things I'd like to change? Absolutely. But the person who is looking at that, I love her. She gets on my nerves sometimes, but I love her.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big distinction, who versus what. It's not the same because you could love yourself all day long, but then you might see some things in the mirror and you're like, okay, I need to work on that. Or I don't like that. That didn't used to look like that. You know, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Like to be able to say, I was happier, healthier at a certain point, or that's something that I would like to see improve. That's part of loving yourself, even if you don't like what it is you're trying to improve. That's kind of the point. You don't like it, you can fix it, but you still have to love yourself through it.
That part. And that's hard while we're trying to be better, change things, make that progress. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard to do that. We'll move on to the next question because we kind of started talking about this a little bit. But have you ever been body shamed by others or yourself?
My whole life. Literally my whole life. To this day, my whole life. And not just for my weight. Sure you can tell there's a nice little space in between my front two teeth. It took me a good 20 some odd years to accept it and love it because of how people would talk about it when I was younger. Like, I hated my gap. Now I'm at the point where it's a part of me. And if I love me, I love that part of me. But literally all my life. And then I would say I probably started body shaming myself when my body started to change when I was a teenager. Because, again, comparing myself to plenty of other people. Like, she's skinny, she's tall, she's this. My closest friends, I always felt like I was the fluffy friend. I don't like that other F word. So I was always the fluffy friend. So I was shaming myself. Why can't I be more like them? Why can't I look like her? Oh, all the boys like her. Why don't they talk to me? Because I'm the fluffy one. But again, at some point, I literally just stopped caring. Like, I don't care if you don't like it. I might not like it, but I'm good with me. You don't have to be.
But it was growth though, so it wasn't always that way, and it wasn't easy.
Oh no, it wasn't. There have been some pretty low lows when it came to that, but I had to learn me, and I had to learn to love all of me, good, bad, indifferent. Do I still struggle with it from day to day or from time to time? Yeah, but the foundation is there that regardless of what I look like doesn't make me.
Right. It's who are you? Like you said, the who versus the what.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I guess when I was younger, I didn't struggle with my weight when I was younger, but I was always short. And I think more in elementary school, people used to tease me for being short. As I got older, nobody really cared. And I always had one friend that was shorter than me, and I'm not gonna call her out because she's watching. But I was like, oh yes, I was shorter than me. Love you, sis. But I don't know. I think I used to internalize that though. I think, and when I was younger, people used to talk about my hair when I was natural before I got relaxers. So I didn't get a relaxer until I was about 12. So people would talk about my hair because it was really thick, and they used to call me mushroom head. And because like when I would wear it pressed, it was still thick. So I think I struggle more with like my hair and my height, not so much my weight. But then as I got older, I was an athlete, so my shoulders got broader. And I used to start not liking that because as I went through puberty and stuff, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't look like that. Again, I don't look like that. And I remember my father telling me, he's like, me and your mom's athletes, me and your moms are built. You not gonna look like that. And I'm like, well, why not? Because I want to look like that. And like, I didn't understand it. But the older I got, and then once I started having children, and then I started gaining weight, and then I started liking certain things, I had a gap too. And it wasn't because somebody told me I needed to, but I decided like, okay, no, I want to close that because I just wanted to close it. Didn't have an issue with, nobody else saying anything, but it was just a personal preference. But for me, it was more weight. And then people would point out, oh, your stomach is a little big. Or you might want to suck that in. And then so it started to cause me to pay more attention to something that I already noticed. So then I think the more I saw that I didn't like how much I was weighing, because really it was more about weight and what it looked like, the more I started shaming myself. And that wasn't fun because then you're like, oh my goodness, like, I knew I loved myself. I liked myself, but I said, what did I do? Did I just let myself go? And I know Lamari's always saying, like, well, you didn't have 3 kids and you look good. And I'm like, but am I supposed to look like that? Some of these women had these babies and their stomachs just go right back like that. And I'm like, if I was an athlete and all this stuff, how come it don't look like that? Average height. I think that's something else for men too. Like, because I know my dad was average height. That's why I'm short. My mom is short. Like they get picked on for stuff, or like if you're not buff, like you don't lift enough weights, dude, you need to hit the gym, get your weight up. Like, what does
it goes back to who said, like, who said you have to, what is average? Like, are you doing the statistics to figure out what average actually is, or is it just average because somebody said that's what you're supposed to be? Like, who said that?
And because that even goes into one of our questions, which I guess we can even just touch on because we're talking about it, like the BMI scale. Now, we are not medical professionals. Disclaimer, we're not medical professionals. But who came up with that scale?
And who was it for?
Thank you, that part. Who decided that was universal? I'll wait. If somebody in the comments want to explain, I'm just trying to figure that out. No, we're not swinging. I'll bless that we're not swinging on people. But body shaming is the pits. But who decided? Who decided that? So that was one of our questions, pros and cons of looking at it. Who decided? And I mean, I get it. But yeah, average height. Well, most women are this height. And so we just take an average of the heights. Are these all women, all cultures and ethnicities? Are we looking at all of that? With BMI, do we look at all of that? Or do we just say, you should weigh this because you're that height? Who made that decision? Based off what?
Now, if it was based on actual health and wellness, that would be different. You're literally taking measurements. You're taking a tape measure and saying you're too big here, you're not big enough there, you're too big there, so you don't fit the mold. Who said I was supposed to? And what mold are you using? I fit the mold that I came from. So what mold are you using?
Thank you. The mold you use is probably the mold that we came from. Probably not. So I mean, I take issue with that because even like when you go to the doctor and they'll say like, well, you should weigh this based off of what? Do you consider age in this? Do you look at, they do all the blood work, all your numbers good, but you need to lose 50 pounds because it don't fit on this chart. This chart says, you can't even explain to me why I need to weigh that.
No.
Because if I weigh, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I will say if I weigh the low number of my chart, I will look sick. Because I've weighed that before and I look sick. But go ahead, go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm full disclosure, being transparent here. I'm one of those people. Like, blood pressure's never been an issue. Cholesterol's never been an issue. Like, I joke all the time, like you would wonder how I got fluffy or how I'm fluffy because I say I can't cook, but you would think looking at me that my numbers don't add up. You're not telling me that I'm unhealthy. You're not telling me that I'm, in danger of anything. What you're telling me is you just have too much on your body. Says who? And then you're not taking into account any cultural differences. You're not taking into account anything, any mitigating circumstances. You're not looking at any of it. It's literally this number plus this number times this number divided by this number equals that. Why do you need me to be a number?
Thank you.
Why do I have to be a number? I'm more than a number, as you can tell by the other numbers that you keep putting in these formulas. So why is that one so important when it does not take into account so many other factors?
Right. And it has to, or else it's not. It's almost like standardized tests. You give everybody the same test. I mean, we're not going to go there, but like you give everybody the same test, and then you wonder why they don't perform the same. Well, the environment, circumstances, situations are not even the same. They don't even receive the same education throughout the school year to take a standardized test. Not going there, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Who's to say? And I mean, I get it in terms of, when we're talking about like diabetes, stuff like that. Because I know, like, I had gestational diabetes with my two youngest. So they told me if I'm overweight, whatever that means, that I'm 60% more likely to develop diabetes. But what does that even mean? Like, overweight. Over what weight? The weight you say I'm supposed to, like, for my height, this is how much weight I should carry for my height. But like you said, other factors, my build, I'm 5'2", but I could be standing next to somebody else that's 5'2", and we're not built at all the same.
Not even close.
So why do we got to weigh the same? It don't make any sense. And then your muscle weighs more than that. So if you have more muscle, you're probably going to weigh more anyway, but they still looking at the number. You need to lose weight. I'm not losing my muscle. Are you crazy?
I know people who are literally 100% within the guidelines of the BMI chart standard. Diabetic, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. So if you're telling me that somebody who fits your number is still unhealthy, then that kind of negates the fact that your number is the end all be all, doesn't it? That's the exception to your rule. So there are other things to take into account. You can't just say you don't match this, it's wrong. Well, they matched it and they were more wrong in a sense. So yeah, I pay zero attention to the BMI chart.
I don't look at it. I don't either. Because even if we go into this question, since we're kind of talking about it, I mean, even the scale, like as I've been on this lifestyle change and journey, I've had to get off the scale actually, because the scale was making me not want to do it. And I don't have a personal trainer, but I was talking to someone that's a personal trainer, and he told me to stay off the scale. He said, you maybe weigh yourself once a month. But he said, first of all, as a female, your weight gonna fluctuate all throughout the month. He said, measure inches. He said, if you really want to know how much weight what you're really dropping, measure yourself, like your waist, your arms, like see how many inches you're losing. If you focusing on that weight, if I was focusing on weight, I would have been stopped. Because I haven't lost as much weight as I thought I should, but my body has changed completely. And I know you and I have had discussions about that before, because I'm like, well, I need to get on the scale. You even told me, get off that scale. Get off the scale. Stop looking at it.
Your weight at 7 a.m. is going to be different than what it is at 1:30 p.m. So if you weigh yourself today at 7 o'clock and weigh yourself tomorrow at 12:30, you're going to drive yourself nuts.
Yep.
Like that was, if I'm honest, the scale is the main reason that I have started and stopped my fitness journey so many times, because I don't see the numbers moving, even though I feel different, even though I feel stronger. I don't see the progress that I was hoping to see in the number, but I'm seeing the progress in actually building and actually, being able to endure and all of that. It is the main reason that I have quit my fitness journey so many times. And after a while, it was, you know what? I forget the scale. Do my clothes fit better?
Right. That part.
Well, I like what I see when when I look in the mirror. Do I feel better? Do I feel like I can move better? That's a big one for me. Can I move better? Can I, play with my kids longer? Can I run around behind whoever longer? That's all that matters to me. That scale, yeah, you can look at it every so often, but like you said, our weight fluctuates regularly. So if you keep checking, I was on a little stint where I was literally checking it every morning at the same time of day, and every morning at the same time, it was something different.
Yep.
I'm like, forget it. I'm not doing this.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same for men too, but especially as women, just hormonal changes. Like we just all over the place. Like you said, you can weigh yourself this time, this day, another time tomorrow, and you're gonna be like, I gained 5 pounds in a day. In a day. Did you really? I mean,
or did you just have the large water instead of the small?
And you just retained all the water you just drank. It's tough. Yeah, the scale is not your friend, but a lot of times we get caught up in the weight. And when we get caught up in the weight, we don't look at the progress. Like, is your endurance better? Stamina? Can you lift heavier weight than you used to do before? Like, you don't even look at that stuff. Like, are you really in good health, period? Like we talked just before about all the numbers. Like, how's your cholesterol? How's your blood pressure? Are you a diabetic? You could be considered overweight and have no other health issues, but the person who's not overweight could have all said health issues. So weight cannot be the only determining factor. And so, but I think it comes from like looking at this question, because the weight is what we see. Mm-hmm. And like, you can't look, people think they can, but you really can't look at somebody and tell if they're a diabetic. You don't know that. But you can be like, well, they probably need to lose some weight, or they probably need to gain some weight. Because let's face it, sometimes we're not body shaming because somebody's overweight. Sometimes we're body shaming those who are under. And they struggle too, because a lot of times they're trying to gain weight and they can't. So it's not even always being over. Sometimes it's under. And we have to, factor that in as well. Yeah, and it's a journey. And it's fitness. Also, wait, clothes fit better and I looked amazing. That's a big thing. Your clothes fit differently, or you don't even wear the same size anymore. Or like you said, when you go, I love that. For me, it's that mirror. Do I like it? Yeah, when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I'm like, wow, I actually do like what that looks like.
Again, it's that walking past the mirror like, oh, I see it. Mm-hmm. I see that. And it's like you see the product of the work that you're doing, the product of what you're really fighting for. And it's not always just the look. I feel like I look better. I feel more confident about how I look, as opposed to I just look better. Too. If I look better to me, then shouldn't that be enough?
Mm-hmm. It should be.
If I feel better to me, shouldn't that be enough? Now, I will say, with weight and overall health, it's not completely useless to look at those numbers. It can be a good guide rail sometimes, or guardrail sometimes, because statistically, there are some correlations between weight and health conditions, or excess weight or not enough weight and some health conditions that you have or could develop. Is that the end all be all? Absolutely not.
It's just not. And I think that's just the whole point. Like, we have to look at the bigger picture. It's more than just how much you weigh. There are so many other factors that have to be included in that. And then there's also a lot of health conditions, like we're just talking about people underweight, that prohibit people from gaining weight. And there's health conditions that make it really hard for people to lose weight too. So like you have to factor in all of these different things. But good evening, Mother. But when we just focus on how much you weigh today, well, I've personally stopped. And it was funny because I weigh myself now on the last day of the month. So we just had that. And I got on the scale and I didn't weigh no different than I did on April 30th. April 30th. Yeah. April 30th to May 31st was the same weight. So I sat there, I gave myself 10 seconds to have a moment. And I said, you know what? Go get that measuring tape. Forget the scale, measure yourself. And I lost more inches around my waist. I said, now forget that number because you've obviously made progress. Maybe you didn't lose the pounds you thought, but you've made progress. So remember that. And I had to like shift gears, but that wasn't easy for me to do. Like maybe even a couple of months ago. That wasn't easy for me to do. Now I'm like, I gave myself 10 minutes to pout. And then I got up and said, okay, now go get the measuring tape.
You attack it like everything else. There's a problem. I feel like there's something I need to correct. I don't like what this is. I'm not happy with this result. Okay, be upset about it. The meme that I love is, are you going to cry about it or are you going to boss up? First of all, I'm going to do both.
Right. Let me cry for a second.
We'll cry for a second, but then we're going to boss up and do something about it. Like if I'm not happy with it and it's me, then that means that I have the ability to change it to something that I am happy with, or I have the ability to try even if I need help because there are things hindering me from doing that. I have the ability to change what I'm not okay with. So yeah, I'm going to cry about it, but then we're going to do something about it.
Exactly. Because that too, bro, because that's what it, I mean, I know that's because I can look at myself and I know that. And, but it's still something I have to think about because one of the questions, we're a little out of order, which is fine, but body dysmorphia. Yep. All day long. If you asked me how much I thought I weighed or I thought I weighed without getting on the scale, I would tell you way more than I actually weigh. Because if I don't look the way I want to look, then I think I weigh this over here because it ain't what I'm because it's not what I want it to be. Oh, it's like 60 pounds more than what it is because it just isn't that. So I struggle with that all the time. That's why I say it's an insecurity for me if somebody says something other than, oh, you made progress. If you tell me anything about my stomach, I'm going to have a problem. I'm working on it, but we ain't there yet. Because I don't want to hear it. Respectfully, don't want to hear it because I know what I need to do. But your comment doesn't help me. Because
I actually had to set a boundary with that. I had to set a really, really hard boundary with people about that. Like, hey, I've been fluffy my whole life. Well, after a certain point, been fluffy most of my life. If I know I'm working on it, I don't need you to point nothing out. I'm already working on it.
Thank you.
So if you decide that you're going to comment on it, I'm over here. I love you, but bye.
Bye. Right. It's not for me. For some people, it could be. It's not encouragement for me. It does not motivate me. It makes me angry. Especially because, like you said, we're working on it. But my other thing though about that is some people aren't ready.
That too.
So if you just keep saying stuff, like that doesn't help either, because if someone needs to lose weight or gain whatever, but they're not ready, if you keep saying it to them, that's not going to make them do it either. They're not ready. So let them be ready. But pointing out the things you have identified that they need to work on, to me, that would be body shaming. That would be body shaming. Especially if they didn't ask you.
I was just about to say, please tell me how often shaming somebody into doing something better works. It doesn't work very often. And even if it does work, it's temporary. Like I've rarely seen shame be a good motivator for much of anything. So if you're saying it to me out of concern, out of, oh, I just want you to be better, that ain't the way to do it.
Not for
Make me feel bad about it. That's not the way to do it.
Doesn't. And for some people, it might work. I don't think very many people it works though, but just saying, we agree it doesn't work for us. It doesn't.
See, here's my thing. I'm a little bit of a rebellious spirit. So if you tell me that I need to do something, that's probably the quickest way to get me not to do it.
Exactly.
So don't come to me telling me what I should feel bad about. Oh, should I? Are you sure? Okay, I'm good.
Right. I mean, and it's just, to me, it's like, if you have time to critique what other people look like, are you paying attention to yourself? Like, and I'm not saying that means you need to work on something. I'm just saying, like, I don't have time to tell you what you need to do with your body that don't belong to me. And I didn't create your body. I don't have time to tell you what to do because I'm too busy trying to pray and make sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my body, because I know this is my temple and I need to be honoring my temple that the Lord is allowing me to use on this earth. So if I'm working on me, I don't have time to criticize you. I don't have time for that.
And that's not just a physical thing. That's life. Like, worry about yourself is real. Like, yes, you are my brother and sister in Christ. Like, you're another member of the body. However, if you operate in your purpose, you can't fight me about mine.
No. And that's whether we talking about natural bodies, BBLs, all that stuff. You do what we all have to give an account for whatever it is that we do. So I can't tell you that. I can't. That's not my decision to make for you.
That's not my job. That's not my job.
It's not. Of course, I mean, I want you to be healthy. Because I always say I really do love people. I really do. I want us to be healthy. I want us to honor our temples. But it's not my job to tell you how to do that. I can't tell you that.
So if I can't tell you, you can't tell me either. You can't tell me.
So yeah, there's a few more questions I want to get to, but this is good. I think this is gonna be good. But I have to ask this question because I've been hearing my kids say it and it irks my nerves. What is your stance on the term big back? They got the song out.
I don't even know where to start. When I heard adults saying it, it was uber cringy. Like, it was like that's what we're doing. That's the new insult is big back, okay? Mm-hmm. Or the new comment, whatever. It really got under my skin when I started hearing kids use it to describe each other jokingly, have like that insulting love that they do with one another. Like, y'all sound really mean to each other, but y'all accept, and to an extent, I get that. But the term itself, I'm just like, on the one hand, I don't know that they use it with the same connotation that we have for it. Mm-hmm. I feel like when they say it, it's just one of those general insults. Like, we know that calling somebody a big back is mean, so we're going to kind of repurpose it, use it as we're going to joke around with each other with it. I don't think they say it with the underlying understanding that it has to do with what somebody looks like and their weight. Right. So I just don't like to hear it at all. Like, I'm very big on making sure that they stuff like that. I'm like, do you really know what that means? And if you did, would you still say it to the people you care about? Right. I don't like it. I think I don't think it's going anywhere. It's taken off, but I literally cringe every time I hear it. Like, ugh, please go away. Please let that go away. This isn't for children. I know they don't understand it. For adults, it's like just another insult. Like, what's the point? You're still comparing me to what? You're still calling me this for what? Why? Right. But yeah, it does bother me when I hear kids use it in that way.
Yeah. Well, your grandchildren say it all the time, Mom. All the time. There's this song called Big Back, Big Back. big. They just be singing it. And then like they tease each other and they're like, oh, well, you get your big back. And I'm like, I know my kids say some mean things to each other. They need to work on that. But I cringe when I hear it too, because to me, to me, there's a negative connotation. Now, I've also heard on the flip side when like people be at the gym and they say, I'm unbigging his back.
But it's still based in an insult.
I mean, because so if or the flip, so is there a small back, like small, like big back, small back? Like, what does that mean? Like, again, who determines your back is big? You or somebody else? Because you can't even see your back when you walk. And like, did you see it? Did you? Somebody like, you got a big back, like, and you just.
First of all, who says that? Do people actually say that? Like, you just have a really big back?
I've never heard it until they talk about unbigging backs and now talking about big back. And I'm like, where did that come? Again, where did these terms come from? We say these things, and to me, that just to me goes with body shaming again.
Absolutely.
Why do we say it? Whether you mean it or not, to me, it's not a joke. I don't find anything funny about it. And like I said, I've had to correct my children multiple times from just joking around with each other. Like I haven't heard them say it about anybody else, but still, it's still to me, it's unacceptable because I don't see the purpose in it. I don't understand it. But I think it's another term that puts us in that mindset of something wrong. It's not supposed to be that way. And who are we again to say that? And why do we focus so much on that? Like, why?
That's the main question, is why? Like, it's always what is the purpose of saying that? Because there's no positive intent behind it, which means by default, it has a negative meaning.
Yep.
Even if you're joking, it's still negative. It's based in a negative insult. So why? And again, I understand repurposing words and whatnot. We've done it with plenty of things. But there's still some basis in negativity there that I'm not going to say that to somebody I care about. I don't think it's funny to say that to somebody you care about just because of what it's based in. It might sound funny, but when you know what it really means and who it's really directed at and why, kind of takes the humor out of it for me.
Yeah. And especially when you are someone who's either struggled with your weight or like you have been trying to unbig your back, you wouldn't have necessarily said that. But like, you're trying to do that and somebody's like, yeah, you just eating bigging that back again. Like my son says it to friends on the phone, they joke about it. But I'm like, to me, it's insulting. Personally, I don't like it. And like I said, I've had to correct it. But I think that just goes on a list of things we need to watch what we say to people because it's body shaming.
And you never know with the words you say, the words you use, you never know how somebody's going to receive it. You never know what they're going to do with it. You never know if that pushes them over the edge. You might be joking, but that could be pushing them to a point that's hard to or not able to come back from. You just never know. So you just got to be real intentional about the words that we use.
We do. And understanding that just what you're joking about is not always funny, but even sometimes when we're just saying things like supposed to be encouragement to get you, it's not always that way. It's not always looked at. So you need to know who are you speaking to when you say certain things and understanding, I'm not responsible for necessarily how you take what I say. I'm responsible for what I say and how I say it, but I could probably change what I'm saying or how I'm saying to say it in a way that's more loving and not judgmental or shaming towards someone else because I'm saying something. So, but just a couple more questions. How can we learn to love ourselves more, even when we may not look the way we want to?
To me, it just goes back to understanding the difference. Like, this is a housing. It's not the full composition of who I am. It is just the external housing. There's so much more to me than what you see. There's so much more to me than the fact that there's no thigh gap. So who cares? And And again, this could be the rebellious spirit in me coming out again. If what I look like is enough to stop you from figuring out what's inside and what this housing contains, I can't help you. And that goes for anybody talking to themselves too. Like, you have to understand that this is just external. There's more to you than this. There's more to you than what meets the eye, figuratively and literally. Like, you physically, mentally, all of that. There's so much more than what meets the eye. And while God did indeed create the vessel, he deposited his spirit in that vessel.
Right.
He deposited more than just, he had to have something to put himself into. So the vessel itself, is that more important than what he put in it? Is that more important than what's actually inside of it? And the external can change. Like, it changes every day. But what's inside is more constant, more, hopefully, it's more constant than anything physical that can change at the drop of a hat. And I feel like he saw fit for there to be a me. There's only one of me. But this one has gone through I don't know how many external transformations. This one that he created looks different every other week. But the core of who I am, the core of who we are, who he has been in us, to us, has never changed.
Right. That's so important. Like, this is a shell and this is temporary, which we see is temporary. You know, we're not going to even always walk this earth. Now, yes, because like when we go back to the, scripture, we're supposed to honor our temple. So yes, we are responsible for caring for our outward appearance too. But your temple is even more than just what you look like on the outside. Because when you talk about a temple, I mean, if this is us, like as a person, like who are we at our cores? Like our core, like, are we living a life that will be pleasing to Christ? Are we showing the Holy Spirit that's supposed to live within us? Do we even live like that? Because you could love what you see when you look in the mirror and hate what you see when you look in the mirror at the same time. Because everything might seem to be in a place looking the way you want it to, but then when you really see who you are, you don't even like who you are. And to me, that's more important. Because if my personality or my spirit, I don't say personality, if my spirit is jacked up, it don't matter how much I weigh. It don't matter if I got a stomach or I don't got, that don't even matter if my spirit is jacked up. Who's going to want to be around me? How am I able to serve God the way I'm supposed to if my spirit don't even look like him? So I like what bro said, like trying to look at ourselves the way that God loves us or seeing ourselves the way that God sees us. Absolutely. Because, and it is a struggle. It is a struggle because let's face it, if we're honest, self-esteem is real. Self-worth is real. All those things are super, super real. And sometimes we don't like what we see. And it's not just our weight or our physical appearance, is we just don't like ourselves. Mm-hmm. But how do we learn to do that? Well, you do have to learn, what does God say about you? And knowing that God, like you said, God saw fit for there to be a you. So that means you are purposeful and you must be important to the kingdom of God because God created you. So that's a hard concept sometimes to get when we're comparing ourselves to other people, or people are telling us we're supposed to be this, you're supposed to look like that. And then we start to think erroneously that we're supposed to be this or that. It's hard to do that sometimes, but if we really know whose we are, who we belong to, who created us, and know that God don't make mistakes. Mm-hmm. So the gap in between your teeth, God put it there.
Yes, he did.
He didn't make no mistake when he did that. My shoulders broad. God made my shoulders broad. He ain't make no mistake. And I'm only 5'2", but he ain't make no mistake when he made me 5'2". But as I have to, sometimes I have to keep telling myself that, because I'm not going to say that every day I wake up, I'm like, oh yeah, girl, God did that. Not every day. Some days I'm like, I'm not too sure about this. But constantly reminding yourself, and I think even sometimes forcing yourself to look in the mirror when you're afraid to.
Mm-hmm.
and learning how to compliment yourself in the mirror.
That was one thing that a friend of mine that I was working with kind of forced me to do. Was I realized I had no mirrors in my house. None. No full-length mirrors. I had none. She said, get a full-length mirror and put it somewhere you're going to see it every single day. And not for the purpose of criticism, but for the purpose of looking and saying, I love myself, regardless of what this looks like. I love myself enough to work on what this looks like, but I need to see it and say to myself, I love this.
Right.
Even if I don't feel it every day. I love this.
Mm-hmm. Because even if you don't feel it, you speak it, you start to believe it. Because, the power of life and death is in the tongue. And the things that we say hold so much power. So, yeah, when we start saying these things, like, I love what I see. I like what I see. I love what I see. Even if that's all you can say right now, that's a start. Because even if, like you say, you don't feel it, you don't think it in that moment, eventually you will. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, wait a minute, I actually do like that about me. Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes I know we don't always see it, but when we're talking about the body shaming, and we're getting ready to just do the last question here, because this last one is very, very critical. It's hard because sometimes the shaming comes from other people, and then sometimes it comes from us. And it's hard sometimes to override what you're hearing constantly. And if you're constantly being told you need to lose weight, or you need to gain weight, or you should have longer hair, you shouldn't wear your hair natural, you should this, or you should, it takes a toll on you after a while. And it's hard sometimes to remember the truths when you keep hearing a bunch of lies. So it's like you have to know the truth to refute the lie. And the truth is in the word of God. Absolutely. But this last question we definitely wanted to get to because we both have babies. We both have babies. And this is good for babies that are watching, but also for us parents, aunties, uncles, grandparents. What do you teach your daughter, or what would you tell other young people about loving who they are and becoming comfortable in their own skin?
So kind of touched on it already, but kind of a two-part question. Number one, maybe even three parts. Number one, who does God say you are? Mm-hmm. Number two, does what God says you are, does that align with what somebody else has to say about you? If they don't line up, then question number three is, whose opinion is more important to you?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Are you going to listen to the one who made you, knows you inside and out? Or are you going to listen to somebody who just met you, doesn't know everything about you? And so far, I shouldn't say always, but for the most part, our conversations have gone the way of, I believe what God says about me. And my babies in particular are typically comfortable in that. Like, they are very much themselves. They've got a lot of me in them, but they are very much themselves, and they're okay for the most part with themselves. Have we had conversations about insecurity? Absolutely. But it always comes back to, do you believe what God says you are? Mm-hmm. If you do, then that overrides everything else. Everything else. Mm-hmm. He created you just so. If he made it, he knew exactly what it was supposed to be. And what he says about it is what he says about it. It's the truth. If that's the case, if you believe that, nothing else matters. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't believe that, then we got to work on that. That's something else we got to walk through. Mm-hmm. But as long as you stand on that and believe that, like, my God created me, and I trust what he has to say about me more than what any of the other creations have to say about me. As long as you stand on that, good to go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's first, that's foremost, that's primary. And even I'll say, if that's it, that's enough, because it's what God says that matters. Just like we were just talking about, God created us. What does God say about you? because if God didn't say that, then it ain't true. I know sometimes I got to tell my little ones, well, she said I'm this. Well, did God say that about you? Well, no. Okay, then is it true? Do you trust what God says, or do you trust what they said? Well, God, because and it's like, okay, then now we're getting somewhere. So I think that's definitely something that I share with my children as well. And just another thing, because I've got boys, but I've got girls, and I got girls that are close in age, and their body types are different. So one of the things that I make a point in my house is to not have them compare their bodies to each other, and not even make comments about, well, you are thinner or you are thicker or you're this. It's trying to change how we even speak about that kind of stuff, like at an early age, because they're 8 and 10. Like puberty is just around the corner, but like, they can already see different changes about things. And it's like not speaking those things, and even telling the brother, don't say that. Don't compare them. Because if you start doing this now as their children, you know how that frames their mind, and then they're already thinking, oh, I need to be like this, or maybe she's built better than me because of this and that, and not getting into the mindset of doing that stuff now, because our children hear those things too. So like all these ideologies that we have as adults, if we're speaking that stuff to our children and they start picking it up, and then now they're doing the same thing, the stuff like we've talked about that we had to go through over the trajectory of our lives, they're doing the same thing. So I'm trying to be very intentional with my children, particularly the boys haven't really been as much of a concern, but particularly the girls, because I know how tough it is, and already know I see differences, and not that it's bad, it's just different. And I don't want either one of them to feel that God made a mistake when he created them in whatever way he created them, however, different complexion and everything, they're different in those ways. And I don't ever want them to think that there's something wrong, because it's not that. Not comparing themselves, or even, like I said, with these comments that are jokes, they're not funny. Mm-hmm. So just not even saying those things, and then always leading with the word, because that's what these babies need. We need it. That's definitely what they need.
And sometimes I know that for kids, it's hard to get to what God says. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's a little bit too lofty, depending on their age. Like, well, I'm not sure. So another question I ask is, what they said about you, do you believe that about yourself? Do you believe that's true? And then we can work with that. Like, if you believe what they said, well, let's talk about why you believe that. And then let's work through how we can break that down. But if you don't believe it, if you don't even believe that about yourself, why would you take their word for it?
Exactly. And as much as we tell that to our kids, we got to take that into as adults, because sometimes it's hard, because we might be working on it, and again, like we said, we feel good, and then somebody says something and it sends us right back to where we were. And now we have to start asking ourselves, well, do I believe what they said? Do I? Because sometimes we kind of do. And that's not always good for us.
I've been there way too many times where I'll feel great about something and somebody will say something different. It's like, is it really as good as I thought it was?
Right.
Is it really as positive as I thought it was? Like, or are you just trying to pull me down?
Right.
Are you trying to bring me back down to surface? Because I'm good. I was happy. I'm all right up here. Mm-hmm. Am I giving you the power to pull me back down?
That part. And nobody deserves the power to bring you back down. You don't.
Can't have it.
Nope. Definitely cannot have it. So, well, this has been amazing. Not that I'm surprised, because it was going to be amazing. So, but I thank you publicly. I've already thanked you multiple times, but I thank you publicly for being here this evening and just having this conversation. Just a wealth of knowledge and just being transparent and everything. Truly, truly appreciate it. I just wanted to give you a chance. Was there anything else you wanted to say? Closing statement, anything like that?
God saw fit for there to be a you. Live as you. Mm-hmm. That's all I got. I love you all.
Yep. And that's the truth. That is powerful. And that's where we're going to end it. So thank you again, sis. I really, really appreciate you. So just a couple things. Go ahead and mark your calendars. Lord willing, our next episode of Hashtag from a Christian, Hashtag from a Therapist with Dr. Natatu, episode 22. That means it's been almost 2 years of podcast. You're right around that mark. I think we missed a couple. But yeah, July 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be back. Not going to tell you what it is because I'm not telling you. So you're just going to have to like tune in. You'll know what the theme is for July, but we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. So again, we are talking about image all month. So we do have our Wellness Wednesdays, if I can find it. Yep, Wellness Wednesday, every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we do have our podcast on the first Sundays of the month, live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, next podcast will be on July 7th, but on a Wednesday. Wednesday will be June 5th. We will have our Wellness Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as always, our Tag for Purpose Journey Counseling, every time we are together, I want to encourage you all to be loving, be kind, be compassionate, and be intentional towards others as well as towards yourselves. We definitely pray that this evening, even if you missed some, you got to go back and watch. I know I'm going to watch the whole thing so I can see it on body shaming. Share it with somebody because we all struggle with things on different levels. And this was appropriate for any age. So even if you got to watch little tidbits and come back and watch it, I know we've been over here for like an hour and a half. It was definitely good dialogue, good conversation, and just being honest about this. And we need to really tackle the topic of body shaming as a whole in our culture. So we definitely, again, we pray that you were blessed this evening. And Lord willing, we will see you Wednesday at 7 a.m. for Wellness Wednesday. So we pray that you have a wonderful evening. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and blessings and love. Good night.
Night.